Now, I'm often quick to criticise railways in Germany for their frequent delays and poor infrastructure, which often lead to, shall we say, less than desirable journey times. But today, I'll be taking you on a high-speed journey from the German capital Berlin to the third largest city Munich on Germany's fastest train, the ICE3, reaching speeds of 300 km per hour and taking as little as under 4 hours to finish the journey end to end, all whilst enjoying the comfort and views this train has on offer. Now join me as the journey continues. We'll be starting our journey this morning from the magnificent Berlin Hauptbahnhof, which as the name suggests is the main station serving the German capital. Berlin is a city with rich history, and the origin of this station is a true testament to that, despite only opening in 2006 following 10 years of construction, and consolidates the city's traffic from both the east and west in one convenient place. This is a personal favourite station of mine. If there's any aspect of Germany's railways that highlights the country's efficiency, it's Berlin Hauptbahnhof, as despite being separated across several levels and hosting a large array of shops and eateries, it's still fairly easy to navigate. This makes it well equipped for handling the 350,000 passengers serving it daily, making use of its many train services, ranging from long-distance high-speed Deutsche Bahn ICE services to local S-Bahn services across the city. The upper level of Berlin Hauptbahnhof, platforms 11 to 16, typically handles east to west traffic to places such as Hanover and Frankfurt am der Oder, near the Polish border. Here, two 7-car ICE4s are seen arriving from Berlin Ostbahnhof, preparing to head to Cologne. ICE4s are commonly used on slower ICEs between Berlin and Munich, but our service, ICE 1003 to Munich and Garmisch, is something a little bit faster. This is one of 3 daily ICE Sprinter trains between Berlin and Munich, leaving from platform 2, and speaking of which, I think I can hear it arriving in now. Trains on Berlin's north to south axis like ours today typically serve the lower level or TIEF platforms 1 to 8, and not so typically for Deutsche Bahn, our train has arrived almost 20 minutes before scheduled departure. Now that's early. Our ride to Munich this morning is the ICE3, specifically the original Class 403 variant built for domestic operations. Like the Class 406 ICE3M I reviewed several years ago, the trains were built by the Siemens Bombardier Consortium in several series between 1997 and 2006, and are the first high-speed train in Deutsche Bahn's fleet with distributed traction. The ICE3 has a top service speed of 330 km per hour and reached 368.4 km per hour during testing, though German high-speed infrastructure constraints limit the trains to 300 km per hour in regular service. The ICE3 design has since led to further variants of the subfleet, including the Volaro D and the brand new ICE3 Neo, the latter of which will be a more familiar sight in Berlin later this year, not only on the line to Munich but also on the Berlin to Amsterdam route due to delays with the Talgo 230 sets. Anyway, our train today is formed of 2 8-car ICE3 sets. The one at the rear will be continuing on to Garmisch-Partenkirchen in the Bavarian Alps, whilst the front set, the one I'm in, will detach and terminate at Munich, where I'm getting off. I'm in first class for this trip, and as with most ICEs, there are a few steps between the platform and the train when boarding, so something to bear in mind. The ICE3 underwent a full interior redesign and refurbishment a couple of years ago. The interior is now being almost identical to the ICE4s, with the exact same seats in a 2x1 configuration. Fortunately with plenty of solo seats, though none for me today. Unlike the ICE4 however, the ICE3 also has some general compartment seating in both first and second class, an example of the former shown here, which are great for families, groups, and of course, the dreaded night ICEs. I ended up going for the duo pair here as they were the only ones free. Thankfully no one sat next to me either. As mentioned earlier, this is an ICE Sprinter service, meaning we only have 2 intermediate stops of Berlin Südkreuz and Nuremberg before arriving into Munich's main station at 12:13, our ICE taking 3 hours and 51 minutes to cover a distance of 690 kilometers. If we're on time, of course. We depart Berlin Hauptbahnhof right on time at 12 minutes past 8. So far so good. To leave Berlin Hauptbahnhof's lower level platforms, we have to navigate a series of tunnels, including passing through Berlin Potsdamer Platz station in the city centre. The tunnels run directly under the Spree River as well as the Landwehr Canal, and after emerging in the south of Berlin, we arrive into Berlin Südkreuz or Berlin South Cross, our first stop, which is pickup only. Formerly named Paperstrasse, the station was extensively rebuilt and reopened in conjunction with Berlin Hauptbahnhof in 2006 as part of Deutsche Bahn's new concept for Berlin's long-distance services, the new name being deemed more intuitive. After Südkreuz, we leave the suburbs of Berlin, and despite crossing several states before Bavaria, we won't make any more stops until Nuremberg later, but the high-speed running doesn't begin just yet. We're currently on the Classic line through Saxony-Anhalt, reaching speeds of around 200 km per hour, and with that, it's time to take a look at first class on the ICE 3. The seats are quite controversial as they're not as great as the original interiors, but personally I think they're fine. Yeah, you learn to appreciate them after several trips, and the soft head cushion and ergonomics help. Both sides have foldable armrests with a recline lever just below the seat to adjust it as you see fit. This can help greatly with the legroom, though I found this to be perfectly fine. You know, minus the difficulties with putting up the footrest. Just next to this is a small personal bin cleverly hidden away, with a small foldable tray table just above, though something I admittedly only learnt recently is that these tray tables can actually extend, which is very much welcome. Next to this is a small storage net along with adjustable cup holders, which contain USB-A sockets just below, accompanying the main 220V sockets located at the base of each seat. There's also a larger storage net below the tray table which often contains the menu for the board restaurant, but more on that shortly. There are also plenty of coat hooks, including several just above the window, a retractable one just next to it, and a small round one on the back of the seat in front. One thing I love about these seats is that the reading light is located just next to the headrest here and is operable via a touch sensor. Seat reservations are displayed using electronic displays on the headrests, some also being earmarked for those with Bahn bonus status, though I don't think I've ever seen them used. Have you? Lastly, there's a draw-down window blind which, as with other ICEs, merely reduces the glare and doesn't block the view completely. Not that that's an issue for us today. Overall, a brilliant interior despite some minor imperfections. As I mentioned, it took a while for the seats to grow on me, and you'll probably find the same if you ever try these trains, but they're fine for the distances and journey times these trains do in most cases. We're now crossing over the Elbe River with the Elbe Bridge of the Bundesstraße 2 seen just to the right for carrying road traffic, with this being a good chance to show you the onboard Wi-Fi, which worked pretty well. This is useful in accessing the Deutsche Bahn online portal, which can be easily done using the QR codes just above the tray tables. Here, you can access online entertainment as well as order food to your seat in first class. We, however, will instead be paying a visit to the board restaurant to get some much needed breakfast. If you're wondering why I chose to visit here instead of simply ordering from my seat, a reminder that this is a near 4-hour trip provided you don't get Deutsche Bahn, so this is a nice way to break up the journey. Menus are provided at each table and the onboard attendant will take your order, though you can also order from the kiosk just by the bistro if you don't fancy sitting down or the seating area is full, as is often the case. Whilst we wait for the food to arrive, we can be seen passing a Bombardier Talent 3. These controversial regional trains were ordered by Austria's ÖBB for their CityJet services, but were ultimately rejected due to numerous delays resulting from software issues, with Bombardier's successor Alstom now providing some for use in Baden-Württemberg and for Abellio in Saxony-Anhalt, as seen here. Stay tuned for the video soon. Shortly afterwards, we pass Halle-Saale Hauptbahnhof non-stop, despite being one of the most important transport hubs in the German state of Saxony-Anhalt. The station here is an island station which has its main station building located just between tracks 7 and 6, which we can see just to the left. Isn't it something? Afterwards, we enter the first of 3 high-speed lines making up the Berlin to Munich high-speed railway, this one being the Leipzig-Halle-Erfurt high-speed line. As the name suggests, we'll be using this line as far as Erfurt, and right in the middle of traversing it, my breakfast arrived. I ended up going for the apple and cinnamon porridge with some heated bread, orange juice and water to complement it. Now to sit back, relax and enjoy as we speed along the high speed line at 300 km per hour. We soon reached the end of the first section of high-speed running on this trip and passed through Erfurt Hauptbahnhof, the capital and largest city of the German state of Thuringia, and where you can catch both long-distance and local trains, an example in the background used on the small lines around the region. We, however, continue towards our next high-speed line, the Erfurt to Nuremberg high-speed line. As with the previous high-speed line, we reached speeds of up to 300 km per hour here as well. Minus the infrastructure changes, stock used and having to exit the high-speed lines every now and then, this very much feels like more of a French high-speed rail service, at least for now anyway. Anyway, let's have a look around the rest of the train. As mentioned earlier, the Class 403 ICE3s all underwent a complete redesign that was completed a few years ago. So as with first class, second class is basically the same as the ICE4, laid out in a 2x2 configuration. Again, you learn to tolerate these seats over time. There are also compartments in the disabled carriage for use by groups and families, though this was occupied on this particular trip. There is also one dedicated space for those with reduced mobility, which is spacious enough, though someone thought it was wise to put a suitcase there for some reason. There's also a wheelchair accessible toilet on board. I've never really had an issue with cleanliness on Deutsche Bahn toilets, and this one was no exception. It's also spacious too. Next to this and throughout the rest of the train are numerous standard toilets as well. Luggage storage is available through the overhead racks for smaller items, as well as larger racks in the vestibules and main seating areas for larger ones. After exiting the high-speed line, we're back on the lower speed classic line for the approach into Nuremberg, though we do experience some issues in the fourth area before returning to normal running shortly afterwards, picking up a small delay in the process. We're now arriving into Nuremberg's main station. This is the largest city in Franconia and the second largest city in the German state of Bavaria after Munich. Whilst most people associate this city with its World War II significance and Middle Ages castle, many enthusiasts will note the city as being home to the Deutsche Bahn Museum, which I finally managed to visit a few months ago back in April. Have you been yet? Seen on arrival is one of Deutsche Bahn's Skoda-built train sets used on the Munich to Nuremberg Express, a high-speed regional services that links both cities in as little as 2 hours, if the sets actually work. For us though, we'll complete the journey in as little as 1 hour as the crow flies, all being well of course. On that note, we enter the final high-speed line, the Nuremberg to Ingolstadt high-speed line shortly after departure from Nuremberg. Here, we once again reach 300 km per hour, which is a good chance to show you the best feature of the ICE3, the driver's eye view. This can be frosted or cleared depending on the will of the driver, and when the latter, provides fantastic views speeding down the high speed line as we reach our final destination. Our high-speed running ends around half an hour of travel later at Ingolstadt, with over 30 minutes now spent on the classic line for the home straight towards Munich. Overall, it's been a great journey with Deutsche Bahn. Berlin to Munich is one of the few railway lines in Germany where I can confidently say it strongly competes against air travel, and with the amount of ICE trains per day, ranging from fast to semi-fast to slightly slower but still fast, and a fantastic dining car, this journey is a no-brainer to be done by train. For this trip, I was using my first class Interrail pass, and because reservations are not compulsory in Germany, I just boarded and sat in an available seat. This train can get busy, especially between Berlin and Nuremberg, so I recommend booking a seat reservation on the Deutsche Bahn website for €6.90 to avoid having to scramble for a free seat like I did. Prices for this train around a few weeks in advance are €65.99 in second class and €101.99 in first class on the Deutsche Bahn app, though these can and do vary based on demand, so be sure to book as far in advance as possible to get the best fares. In the end, we complete our city centre to city centre journey with a slight delay, arriving into München Hbf at 12:04, a mere 2 minutes late. Basically on time for Deutsche Bahn. Welcome to Munich's main station. With our arrival into the Bavarian capital, the ICE 3 pair now separates. The front set I was in ends its journey here, whilst the other set continues towards Garmisch-Partenkirchen in the Bavarian Alps for another hour and a half. Should it continue to run on time? Now that that's finished, I want to hear from you now. Have you tried the Deutsche Bahn ICE between Berlin and Munich, or the ICE 3 on any other route? What did you think of it, and are you convinced to give it a go after watching this video? Let me know in the comments. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please like and share it if you did to aid the channel's growth, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications for more content such as this weekly. And as for me, I'm off to go get some lunch before continuing my journey later this afternoon. Thanks so much for coming with me on this trip, and I look forward to bringing you with me on my next one.